Good afternoon. Hi everyone, my name is Sonia Dhaliwal and I'm with the British Columbia Institute of Technology. I'm one of the Advanced Placement and Prior Learning Specialists at BCIT. In this role, and as well as through my master's program in adult learning and education, I've been quite heavily involved with research and projects related to prior learning and recognition of prior learning. So that's kind of what brings me here today, and here I've got with me Justine, my colleague.
Yes, hello everybody. Thanks for coming out here this afternoon. Like Sonia, I work with adult learners to assess their backgrounds from a variety of different experience levels and education backgrounds. I have personally been involved with research projects looking at how military training and experience translates into academic levels, and I'm currently managing our military skills conversion program out of BCIT. So today we've prepared our presentation to share our assessment practices for our advanced placement and prior learning approach, which we'll also be referring to as APPL, APPL. And we've also included a little workshop portion, so we'll actually get you to participate in some APPL assessments from some actual students who have gone through our program. So today I'll give you a quick background and then I'll get into our APPL methodology, and then Sonia will take over to actually go through our assessment process and run the workshop. Then we'll end with how we've since expanded the APPL approach across Canada. So to start, why did we start APPL? First of all, we believe that experience matters, as all of you do in this room. That's why you're here. We believe that anybody with education background or work experience shouldn't have to start from scratch in order to advance their education. Also, being participants of lifelong learning ourselves and coming from a post-secondary institute, we see the value in lifelong learning and its importance. Lifelong learning is important not only to the employer but also to the employee, because it helps with career development and progression within an organization. And often when learning goes unrecognized, people don't decide to pursue further education because they're feeling discouraged and that all of their life's work wasn't really worth much. We also saw a social and economic benefit that APPL would have on British Columbians as well as Canada as a whole. According to the Conference Board of Canada's 2015 Brain Gain Report, if Canada enhanced its learning recognition system, Canada could gain $13 to $17 billion. Right now, this is being lost due to unemployment and underemployment. So we wanted to find out, what exactly are employers looking for? And when talking about the knowledge and skills that employers are looking for, the National Association of Colleges and Employers has told us year after year that employers they more so value the soft skills over the technical skills required for a job. And it's those soft skills like the abilities to work in teams, to communicate, and to problem solve that aren't always learned in school. They're more so gained through work experiences. So what we know, ideally, employers would of course like to see those who have post-secondary credential as well as relevant experiences. However, that's not always what we have on the labor supply side. We'll typically see a mixed bag of candidates. There are those with a credential, but they may be lacking those relevant experiences. And there are also those that have a lot of work experience, but they don't have a credential behind them. Then there are also those new Canadians who may have foreign credentials that employers are just doubtful about. So here we have BC's working age population, and in the blue are those aged 30 to 50. And it's typically in this age group that we'll see those who have 15 to 20 years of work experience behind them, and they're always learning, whether they're attending seminars, workshops, conferences, or just receiving on-the-job training. They're often underqualified in terms of having a post-secondary credential, but they are very well trained. According to the Brain Gain Report again, they estimate 120,000 Canadians have experiential learning to the level of a credential, but it is not recognized. Another part of this group would be those new Canadians who have foreign credentials that aren't being recognized. And the Brain Gain report estimates this number to be over 520,000 Canadians. So a small percentage of this group have their bachelor's degree, and an even smaller percentage would have their master's degree. And typically these people would have worked their way up into the position that they're in within a certain organization, which is great, except since most of their human capital was acquired at that organization, they feel trapped. So if they were to move somewhere else, would their experience be recognized? Would they need that credential? So this led us to the BCIT Human Capital Initiative, which is an alternative approach to prior learning assessment and advanced placement in academic and vocational programs for Canadian veterans, first responders, mature students, and new Canadians, known as our Advanced Placement and Prior Learning Program. So now we wanted to share how our approach to recognizing prior learning is a little bit different from the regular PLAR approach that we're used to. So typically somebody would gain human capital through education and workplace experience, a combination of those. And the usual or traditional path for an individual would be to graduate high school, go to school to get a credential, and then enter the workforce. What we're focused on is those who took an alternative path. They may have graduated high school, entered directly into the workforce. Maybe they took some post-secondary courses here and there, but they probably didn't get a credential. And this is where our APPL assessment would come in. So essentially what we're doing is we are looking at somebody's life experiences. We want to know everything about this individual. What's your work experience like? What about your volunteer experience? Were you part of an organization with a comprehensive training program like the military? What kind of roles have you had? Supervisory, management? And then we would look at this as a block and then equate that to academic levels. So are they at a certificate level, diploma level, or maybe even a degree? And then grant them advanced placement based on this. So the reason this APPL approach works so well is particularly because of the structure of our BCIT programs. So I wanted to go through an example to show you how advanced placement would work for these alternative groups. And my example is going to be within the School of Business. So within the School of Business, we have 2-year diploma programs in various different disciplines. So people can choose between marketing, human resources, international business, and so on. And typically, before we started this APPL program, if somebody wanted to get their Bachelor of Business Administration degree from BCIT, they would first have to complete a BCIT Business Diploma in order to progress. So sticking with the diploma level for now, in first year of our 2-year diploma programs, this is where students are going to get their Common Core business courses. So organizational behavior, principles of management, those types of courses. And then in second year, this is where their specialty comes in. So our HR diploma would be heavily focused in like training and development, recruitment and selection. In addition to this, we also offer advanced placement. So for students who have previously completed a post-secondary diploma or degree, like from SFU or anywhere else, they could enter directly into second year of our business program. So when we first started the pilot project of APPL and we started digging deeper into military training, what we found is that in terms of content and hours spent training, that would be considered equivalent to a non-business technical diploma. And therefore, we would treat those military members with, we would treat military members with a certain level of experience, the same as we would somebody coming out of post-secondary with a diploma. And therefore, we would give them advanced placement based on this. So now Sonia is actually going to go through our assessment process.
Okay, so this part is actually directly related to the workshop portion. So if you have any questions in the middle of me explaining any of this, feel free to put your hand up and ask, or you can wait until after I finish and we can go from there. So there's 4 steps generally that I follow when somebody sends me an application for assessment. I'll go into a little bit more detail, but the first one is to evaluate the individual and their position. So that's looking at their work experience and post-secondary. And then I compare these individuals' work experiences and educational experiences to academic levels that we have in the post-secondary system. And then I determine the available pathways for these individuals. And the last thing we do is conduct a gap analysis to see if there's any bridging courses that are required. So step 1 would be evaluating the individual and their position. So we do end up using a lot of the tools that are in the quality assurance manual as well. One of the first one we use is evidence collection. So this is where we ask students when they apply to send us their resume, their job descriptions, as well as verification letters from their employers if they could do that. And then we also ask for the credential or qualification evaluation. So this is things like the post-secondary transcripts. It doesn't matter if they have just a few courses or a full diploma or a degree. We want to see everything. It doesn't matter if it's from 20 or 30 years ago. And then the next thing we do is interviews. The reason we do interviews is to pretty much find out if there's some skills that are hidden and they're not actually putting on their resume, and we can dig a little bit deeper to see exactly what their skills are, and also to find out what level of responsibility did they really have. Sometimes you'll find a resume that's over-exaggerated as well, so you want to just make sure that you're interviewing somebody as well as part of the process. And then the last thing we do is self-assessments. This is more for somebody that might think that they know a topic really well, or they don't realize that they know a topic well enough. So I'll give you the example of somebody that thought they knew Excel at an intermediate level. So a lot of times people are using Excel, the basic functions of Excel, over and over at work. So they think that they know Excel at an intermediate or advanced level, but then they realize, hey, I don't know how to do pivot tables or goal seek or whatever. There's a whole bunch to Excel, so they're kind of incorrectly assessing themselves. So sometimes this gives them a chance to realize that they are incorrectly assessing themselves. So I'm going to start off by giving you an example of a student that has sent his information to me for assessment. So we'll call him Craig. So when he sent me all of his documents, I found that he was a senior building operator. He had 6 years of supervisory experience, and he managed 6 properties. So this is where the interview came into play. I had to call to find out exactly what he means by managing 6 properties. What level of responsibility is he supervising people on top of that as well, and whatnot. We also found that he had the operations management certificate from BCIT, and he had some informal training through his workplace. So he had some building service and maintenance, as well as a certificate of achievement in energy training, and that's from the Building Owners and Managers Association. So the next step would be to compare the applicant's cumulative knowledge, skills, and abilities to academic levels that we have in the post-secondary system. So what we started doing originally when we developed this process was we'd ask ourselves a question: if BCIT was to offer a program to create this student, what would be needed? Would it be a certificate, diploma, or a degree? So for Craig's example, we would say, what level of education would be needed for Craig to go directly into his position without having any previous education? Again, would it be a certificate or a diploma or a degree? So I'm going to put Craig aside for just a second and explain the APPL criteria to you. So what we did was we looked at all of the possible scenarios of the types of students that would come to us, and we wanted to figure out what level of work experience in post-secondary would let somebody get into a diploma level, which is second year, or which level of experience would get them advanced placement into third year, which is the degree level. So Justine and I, as well as some other program planners at BCIT, faculty members and program heads, we pretty much sat together for a day and figured this all out, and this is the criteria that we've came up with and we've been using for the past couple of years. So for someone to get entry into the diploma level, they have to have a minimum of 7 years of progressive work experience plus 5 years supervisory, or they can have post-secondary courses and 5 years of supervisory experience, or they can have the business diploma or the non-business diploma or degree that Justine had already mentioned that we've already had in place from original before we started this whole APPL process. Do you remember the slide that Justine had gone to with the 4 levels of at BCIT? So year 1 is common core courses, and then year 2 is when somebody would go into their specialty. So people that we give advanced placement to, we get them to not do year 1. They skip year 1 entirely, and they get placement right into second year. We work with Peregrine academic leveling, and so depending on the student, so we don't send every single student through the Peregrine academic leveling, but there are a lot of students we put through that, and that's we'll either do it on a course by course basis, or there's like a block program. I forgot the exact name of it, but that's for our degree level. So if somebody wants to go into the degree level, they'll do we have a general test that the program head of the degree had created with some of the girls at Peregrine, and so yeah. So it depends on the individual as well. So that's where that whole assessment, like with the interviews and the self-assessment and all that, that's where that comes into play, because it's exactly that, the degree mill, because BCIT has a really good rep out west, and we don't want to ruin that, obviously. So, and we don't, it's just not fair. You don't put people through, like Justine and I went through the full program. You don't want to just be advancing people if they haven't earned it, right? Okay, so for degree level, so if somebody wants to enter in there, so we've let somebody in if they have a non-Canadian business degree. So a lot of times we get the people that have foreign credentials and they're not recognized here, and now they want to get their business degree from Canada, so we're not going to make them start from the beginning, so we put them right into the degree level. As well as non-business degrees and 5 years of management experience. And so you'll see I've said management here versus before I said supervisory for the diploma level. So that matters as well. So if the level of responsibility is at more of a supervisory level, then they won't get advanced placement into the degree. So there has to be a lot of decision making, high level responsibilities, that kind of thing. So we can also let people into the degree if they have post-secondary courses plus 7 years of management experience. As well as somebody that has a business diploma that's not from BCIT, but they also have the 5 years experience on top of that. They'll fit in there. And then the last one is a non-business diploma plus 7 years of management work experience. So we developed this criteria because we know that we have to be consistent and fair across the board. So that's another thing that's kind of outlined in the manual as well. But we just want to make sure that everybody's treated equally when they're going through this program or the assessment. But then there are people that don't fit directly into these categories as well. And this is where the assessors, we have to go in and talk to the program head specifically about that specific case. And then because we want to just make sure that everybody's being placed at the appropriate level as well. So going back to the example of Craig, so as I previously mentioned, he has 6 years of work experience in a supervisory capacity. He has his operations management certificate from BCIT, and then he has his informal training with his employers. So because his level of experience was at a supervisory level, we can rule out the degree. He doesn't fit in there. And then we can see that he fits in the diploma level. And in his case specifically, he fits into the post-secondary courses plus 5 years of supervisory work experience. So the next step would be to determine the available pathways for this student. So in Craig's case, these are all of the pathways that we have available in the School of Business. And then in Craig's case, I've crossed off the Bachelor of Business degree here because he doesn't fall under that category. So his choices were all diplomas, either advanced diplomas or entry into second year of a diploma program. And he decided to go with the Business Management Advanced Diploma. And then the last part of the assessment is the bridging path. So we have to conduct a gap analysis to determine if there's any bridging courses that are required for this student. And then a lot of the common bridging courses are things like finance, statistics, management, whatnot. And the reason that we have these is because we pretty much, we don't want to make people take courses that, just for the hell of it kind of thing, but we do want to make sure that they're really prepared and successful in the program that they're going to be entering. So this takes us on to the workshop part. Do you guys have any questions before we get on to the workshop? Yeah.
Do you do this in tech programs too? Science and technology programs?
Justine, do we have any partnerships in science and tech?
Some. We are working a little bit more.
Okay, so if you look at our diplomas, they are 120 credits. So Justine and I did the HR diploma at BCIT, and they're 120 credits, whereas if you go to do a diploma somewhere else, they're about 60 or so. Do you know exactly how? It's 60. So what happens is it's just the BCIT model. So the person that created the BBA, they had said that the only they're only going to allow people with BCIT diplomas or BCIT business diplomas to enter the BBA because they know that somebody with a BCIT business diploma has 120 credits, and that's why that's what they were letting in. And then sorry, that's the business degree part. Okay, so Justine's handed you guys out two pieces of paper. One says Advanced Placement and Prior Learning APPL Assessment Process on the top. So if you could take a look at that. So that has the process that was listed on the slides, as well as the APPL criteria, and then some of the APPL pathways. And then if you look at the other sheet, workshop number 1, we've called this person Bali Franklin. And what I'd like you to do is, you can work with your table or partners or alone, it's up to you. What I'd like you to do is to look at the work experience, formal education, informal training, and whatnot, and go through and see what you find for the assessment results. So the first thing is asking the academic level, and then if the person qualifies for the path that they're looking for. And then the last thing is a gap analysis. So the courses that we have listed on the very bottom of the assessment results, from accounting all the way down to business and technical communication, those are the typical bridging courses that we get students to do before they get placement into the BBA executive pathway, which is the degree level. So if you can go through and take a look and see what you think this student should be taking versus what they should not be taking as part of the bridging path. And then we'll go over the answers, and then there's another one. If we have some time, we'll go through the second assessment as well. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us. We'll come around and see how everyone's doing. Okay. So for Bali, what would you guys have said that his academic level is that you would place him into?
Degree, non-business.
Sorry?
Non-business.
Okay. There you go. Yeah, so you're correct on that. So yeah, it was pretty straightforward there. And then, does he qualify for his, obviously the answer is yes, then. He qualifies for the path that he chose. And then the last thing is bridging courses. So before Marjorie, before you say anything about your side, I want to see what everybody else says, and then I'd like to bring up a point of as well. So bridging courses, what do you guys think? Do you guys want to go first? So one of the ones he missed was macroeconomics, but I think that was just a details thing. So that's fine. I originally had statistics and pre-calculus as well. And to answer your question about the technical communication, this is something that you would, obviously, if you're working at BCIT, when you're assessing these students eventually over time, you would realize that in the operations management certificate, he probably did a lot of writing and whatnot. So for me, I just know not to make him do that. So I didn't include it. This is somebody that I just kind of grabbed a real life example and put all of his stuff on here. But one of the things that she had mentioned was the mechanical engineering degree. He probably has a lot of statistics and pre-calculus. So this is where we would maybe, look at what he's already done, talk to him, interviews. We might use the Peregrine academic leveling testing here because he might, maybe the statistics course was a little bit different, or maybe the pre-calculus was a different type of calculus. It wasn't business calculus. So we'd come up with some solution. So yes, we would look at that, and he might not have to do those as well. We ask for specifically, so the job description, resume, that kind of thing, but also let's say if they've done any, if they come to CAPLA every year, and let's just say they get a certificate every year showing that they have done that, or if they've done any, conflict resolution training and anything that they've done, yes, we ask for everything. So it's not just the job description. It's like with the informal training, with the example with Craig, the BOMA stuff. So yeah, we ask for everything pretty much. When somebody asks me, oh, should I send this? I just say, send me everything, because even if I can ignore it, then I'll ignore it, but I'd rather see it than not see it. So the gap analysis, the first A to H, those courses are the courses that I always say, every student has to do this unless they have completed some other, if they've done some microeconomics or macroeconomics, we'll cross it off. But the business and technical communication, it's a recommended, it's kind of something that sometimes we have to, it's not a requirement, but it's kind of like a reminder to us as the assessor to, hey, check to see if they have some communication, because if they don't, they're not going to, there's a lot of group work at BCIT, they're not going to do well working with groups and, with their writing and whatnot. So we want to make sure that they're at a good level with their communication as well. So it's more of, I guess, a reminder. We used to have qualitative methods on there, like another statistics part 2, you can say. That used to be one of the reminders as well, but we've taken that off because we think that the basic statistics is fine. But that's more of, I guess, I could have probably taken it off of this sheet, or maybe not written recommended on it, but it's not recommended for this student specifically because he's done communications already. Another thing. Oh.
It says recommended.
Sorry.
No, here's the answer.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So that's what the student was required to take.
Yeah. But then how Marjorie had identified the statistics in the pre-calc, he probably already had some of it through his engineering, and that's where we might use the Peregrine testing and whatnot. And just back to that entrance requirement thing with the grade 12, another thing is for this student, he had an operations management certificate at BCIT. So because he's already done some post-secondary in a Canadian university or institute, we can assume that that's already been checked, the grade 12 and whatnot. So in this case, I wouldn't actually go and ask him for his grade 12 because somebody's already checked it from before. So, sorry, I'm just going to let Justine get on with the national part, but I think if we have time, do we have
numbers?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So the numbers. This is our second person, but anyways, so we have 500 active, 90 who have graduated, and there's 16 program pathways. So we've been talking about School of Business, but we do have pathways in other areas as well within BCIT, and the learner groups. They go from military, we have some private post-secondary partnerships, corporate partners. We have a trades to degree program as well, so somebody that's completed their red seal, they can get direct entry into the third level, so the degree level as well. They have to do the bridging courses and then they get into the degree. And then we have the general mature students, like the ones that you guys just assessed as well. So, are there more sessions after this?
Is this the last one?
Okay, so if anybody has to duck out, feel free, but otherwise
Won't be offended.
We'll let Justine carry on.
Yeah, so I'll go through this really quick. So our APPL method has gone national through partnerships with other post-secondary institutes across Canada, and it's through the National Advanced Placement and Prior Learning Program, or NAPPL. So basically, the purpose of this of NAPPL is to provide a national APPL capability, and this is accomplished through linking the BCIT APPL model with other partner post-secondary institutes across Canada. And this is all done through a web portal that's been created. So within this web portal, we have stored, sorry, I should mention, the reason this came to be is because Employment and Social Development Canada acknowledged what we were doing for recognizing military service. So they provided us with a grant in order to take this project national. And so the web portal that's been created provides a place for the assessor, so myself assessing a military student. It allows me to store and catalog all of the advanced placement pathways that we've created at BCIT and the parameters that we've set for acceptance into an advanced placement pathway. And other institutions or other partnerships do this as well. So I have the opportunity to see what our partner over at NATE is offering for military service. And if we offer a similar enough program and we think we agree with their assessment, I can copy that over to BCIT and create that advanced placement opportunity in-house too. But I also have the ability to adjust what we're offering if maybe BCIT has some other requirements or just to suit our institute. So each institution is autonomous in what they want to offer. It's just a collaborative way of creating more opportunities for military students in particular at this point. All different partner institutes upload all of their pathways and their assessments that they've done based on military training into their individual programs. And then it's a sharing network. So all of the different partners can see what each other are doing, so we aren't reinventing the wheel every time we want to include a new program. A feature of the database is we've actually uploaded the military training that we've based all of our assessments on. So if you have any questions as to why credit or something was granted, each institute can go in and do their own assessment as well. And through this network, the NAPPL network, there is like training and everything provided, so each institute is provided with that so they know exactly how the evaluations are done, what it's based on, and so they can go ahead and do their own or copy over what another institute is doing. So there is that piece as well. And also I'll quickly mention through the web portal there is an assessment feature included in there. So it pulls up the military training documents. So if you have somebody coming into your office who wants a particular pathway into a certain program, all of your program information's in there, all the way down to the learning outcomes, and you can pull reports to match that. So you can see at what level this individual meets. So if they are at a certificate level, diploma level, degree level, and then there's also reports that does a competency gap analysis based on that program that you're assessing the individual for. And this helps you to create that bridging path that Sonia was referring to earlier. So there's that piece in there as well, and it's actually keyworded and coded and everything. But because there is a public website, like I just mentioned, so the web portal from before, like the assessment features and parameters and conditions that somebody has to have in order to get advanced placement, that is only for the institute to access. It's not for the student to go into to assess themselves, to say, oh, I'm going to get this, this, and this. But we do have a public-facing site. So a military potential student could go to, it's military-apple.ca, I believe, and they can go in, click on their military experience, where they want to attend school, and then those partners would pop up and potential program opportunities would also go up, and they'd be prompted to contact that advisor over at that institution. And yeah, so now that we have the foundation in place and we have this network of institutes across Canada, we see this now potentially being used for other adult learning groups that Sonia mentioned earlier in that list, like first responders, general mature students, and potentially those with foreign credentials as well that aren't being recognized. So sorry we went a little bit over, but really appreciate the conversation and everything. And if anybody has any questions, we have cards and we're happy to talk. Thank you guys.